Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, महामंत्र की जय, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna.
Kanchan Mataji and Mukund Prabhu, Rajesh Govinda Prabhu, Tarun Krishna Rangam. So we will start Kirtan now for 15-20 minutes until Prabhuji joins. Okay, so he's going to join soon. It may take 15-20 minutes. Okay. So Mukund Prabhu, are you ready? Kanchan Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Mukund is coming in sometime, Prabhuji.
Oh, okay, great. My Karpal.
Amy? What did Veronica say?
Shiny.
Daddy.
धीरे धीरे करना नीचे
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini
Namaste Saraswati
Gauravani Prachari Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shiva Sadi Bhakta Vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna
Hare
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 Rama,
Rama
Hare
Hare Rama
Rama,
Rama
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 Rama, Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
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 Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare, Hare
Hare Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama
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 Rama,
Rama
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
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 Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Hare Rama
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama, Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
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 Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama
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 Rama,
Rama
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare, Hare
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare.
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Rama
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna
Hare
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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare
Hare
Radha Shyam Sundar Shri Radhe
Jaya Radha Shama Sundara Radha Shama Sundar Shri Radhe
Radhe Sharad Bihari Shri Radhe
Jaya Radha Sharad Bihari Radha Sharad Bihari Shri Radhe
Radhe Vrindavan Chandra Radhe Vrindavan Chandra Shri Radhe
Jaya Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Shri Radhe
Jaya Jaya
Prabhupada
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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya
Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya
Gurudev
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 Gurudev Jaya Srila Gurudev Jaya Jaya
Gurudev 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 Jaya Gurudev
Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol
Nitai Gaura
Nitai Gaur Pramanande Hari
Hari
Bol
Bol Jai
Jai.
Jai
Thank you very
Jai
much. Hare Krishna
Thank you
Prabhu.
very much. Wonderful Kirtan kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Krishna. Hare Krishna, Ajit Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam all goes to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept our humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji,
Thank you
Mataji.
very much for joining the call.
Prabhupada. Thank you for having me here.
So you can take over, Prabhu, please.
Okay, Prabhuji. We'll just start with the invocation prayer. Om Agyan Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakya Chakshur Unmetam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare
Hare
Hare Rama
Hare Rama.
Rama Rama Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Pranam. Prabhupada. Once again, thank you all so much for the opportunity to get your association and your blessings. This is our greatest fortune to be able to get the association and blessings of devotees. So we'll start with today we have text 3, and maybe we'll cover both. They're both very small purports. So we'll be able to very quickly go over the discussion. So would somebody like to read the Sanskrit for text 3?
I can read through.
Okay, Prabhu.
Klaibyammasmagama partha
क्लैप्यमास्माकमापर्थ
naitat upapadyate
नैतत्त्वयि उपपद्यते
dram hridaya daurbalyam
क्षुद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यं
tektvodishta parantapa.
तिष्ठ परं तप.
Translation. O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weaknesses of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy.
And text 4 also, Prabhuji, if you don't mind.
Arjuna uvacha
Arjuna uvacha
katam bhishmam aham sankhe
katham bhishmam aham sankhe
संज्ञे
dronam cha madhusudana
unam cha
द्रोणं च
madhus
मधुसूदन
ishubhi patiyotsami
ishubhi
इषुभिः प्रतियोत्सामि
pujar har arisudana.
pujar
पूजार्हा हरिसूदन.
Arjuna said, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counter attack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship? Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So we are now getting into a very interesting discussion between Krishna and Arjun, and some very nice lessons. Of course, there are nice lessons for us throughout the Bhagavad Gita. So we will try to focus on the Lord is giving us in these, particularly in verse 3. Verse 4 is more of a counter argument being presented by Arjun, but verse 3 is where Krishna is giving Arjun some very actually profound instructions. And we'll touch upon what we had discussed last time a little bit. So Mukta Sangha Prabhuji, before I forget, I believe the format you follow is that first we recap what was discussed last week, right? So sorry, I forgot.
That's fine, Prabhu. For 5 minutes, we can do that. Yes.
Yes, please go ahead, Prabhuji.
So if I remember last class, a very good point, I still remember that how you explained how Krishna is making Arjuna remember the hierarchy. So he is from Kshatriya, so and that is how we are related also, that we are from Gaudiya, Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Madhva Gaudiya Prabhupada Sampradaya actually. So we should never forget that, and they have dedicated so much for us, so we should never forget that, and then we have to dedicate our life also in Krishna consciousness and serve them. So that is like how Arjuna was asked to serve Krishna. So the same way we have to serve our parampara. So that is the best position we are in.
Wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you so much. That was a very important point that was raised. Would somebody else like to add something to it if they want? This is the opportunity.
Yes, Arjuna was from Haribol Prabhu. Arjuna was from Aryan lineage, right? So we are all Aryans, so they should know the um, spiritual value of life, and
Right.
you shouldn't be confused about what you should do. And he's also a Kshatriya. His nature is to fight. So these two qualities are very important. That is being reinforced by Sri Krishna. So you shouldn't be wavering, or you shouldn't be in a limbo what to do at this stage.
Right. And Mataji, if you don't mind, can you just elaborate a little bit on what was the meaning and significance of being Aryan?
Aryan is the one who knows the lineage, that is, they know the civilized person, civilized class of men, and they know the value of life, and also they are like, based on their life is based on spiritual realization. So since uh, Arjuna is the friend of Krishna, and he should have had a lot of knowledge what he was supposed to do. In spite of all the knowledge he was possessing, I think he was so confused in the battlefield not to fight. And also, he is of the Kshatriya warrior clan. So he should not be worried about who is killing. Already, Krishna has killed every one of them. Only just he is using Arjuna as an instrument. So the Aryans are the people who knows the value of spiritual life.
And what is the purpose of this human life? What does the Aryan consider to be the purpose of human life?
Is to know Brahman, to know Krishna, Bhagavan. So
Right.
to get contacted with linked up with the Sri Krishna personality of Godhead.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Anybody else? Any other points that somebody else may want to add? I just want to humbly request, this is as much an opportunity for each one of us to learn from each other. So Muktazana Prabhu requested me to give the class, but that doesn't mean I have all the answers or all the information. Everybody has very good contributions to add. So please don't feel shy. Please go ahead and say something if you would like to.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I would like to add, like Krishna was questioning Arjuna in this text. Actually, this shows us the master and servant relationship, and Krishna was making him think and remind, like he's not this body, he is the soul. So, and he's Krishna is Sri Krishna is trying to help Arjuna build his confidence back, and uh, and he's telling these associations are all temporary, what you're talking about. So yeah, that one I wanted to add in, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Very, very important point. Krishna is trying to build Arjun's confidence. And how he's trying to rebuild his confidence is by reminding him that you're an Aryan, you're a Kshatriya, etc. Those are references. But references to remind him that he is supposed to know the purpose of life. And the purpose of life is to dedicate our mind, body, and soul to the service of the Lord, the service of the Lord. So that was the sticking point here, because Arjun was refusing to fight. In other words, he was refusing to serve the Supreme Lord. And that's why Krishna was saying, what kind of logic is this? You are an Aryan, a person who's supposed to be serving me at all times, and you're saying you don't want to serve me. So, I mean, it came down to basically that was Krishna's point to Arjun. Anybody else? Actually, it's very nice, Muktasanga Prabhu, that you have this system of recapping, because it kind of refreshes everybody's memory, and then the verse that we will study today gets some context again. Otherwise, it'll be in a vacuum if we forget what we had touched upon last week.
Right. Yes, sure. Prabhu.
So anybody?
And Arjuna was deviating from his prescribed duty, and he's not qualified to be Aryan. I think it's just gently pushing him to realize what he should do at this moment. Forget about all the wavering of the mind, and you should focus on what his duty is. Go on.
And that is, yeah, and that is so important for us. Don't we waver in our lives on a day-to-day basis?
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, Arjun had Krishna by his side to prod him.
Mm-hmm.
We have each other. We
Mm-hmm.
have the Sangha of devotees. And while we may associate with each other, specifically this group only on Fridays, but we can always remind ourselves of what was discussed. And we have to consciously make an effort to remind ourselves. And of course, to the extent that we are fortunate enough that our family members are devotees as well, we can keep reminding each other, that this is what we are supposed to do. This is what Bhagavad Gita says. Remember this, remember that. I mean, we have to bring it into our day-to-day lives. Otherwise, it just becomes a theoretical exercise in reading Bhagavad Gita, discussing it. But if we don't bring it into our lives on a day-to-day basis, then we are missing the sweetness of Bhagavad Gita that can be applied into our lives.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes. Okay, so I think then we'll continue with text 3. So it's very interesting. So just now Mataji made the point that Krishna in text 2 was reminding Arjun of how he was actually neglecting his duty. And text 3 is actually more of that same chastisement. Text 3 is a continuation of text 2, and I'll try my best to elaborate a little bit more on the theme that Muktasanga Prabhu reminded us about that we had discussed last time, which was confidence building. Because right now over here, Arjun, the plot, of course, is that he's on the battlefield. But what is the situation? He has lost self-confidence. Why has he lost self-confidence? Because he has forgotten his purpose in life. His self-confidence is low because he is wavering from the purpose of life. Think about that. How many times in our lives we run into situations where we run low on self-confidence? And if we analyze that situation, it is only because of two things. First, when we forget what is the purpose of our life, when we forget what we are supposed to be doing. And second is when that forgetfulness of our purpose in life is happening because of our attachment to material things. Now, every situation is different, every context is different, but these two things apply. Like in Arjun's case, his lack of self-confidence is happening because of his attachment to bodily relationships, meaning this is my grandfather, this is my cousin, this is my guru, this is so and so and so and so, bodily relationships. So he's attached by those bodily relationships, and that is making him forget the purpose of his life, which is to serve Krishna. And that is why Krishna is using such strong words as Aryan and Kshatriya and so on and so forth to remind him. So in today's verse, Krishna says, Klebyam masma gama partha. Klebyam, Prabhupada describes that impotence. He says, and then in translation, Prabhupada says, O son of Pratha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. Do not be weak. Do not be weak. Do not be afraid. Do not be resistant to performing your duty. And then Krishna very intelligently, well, Krishna is most intelligently, everything he does is intelligent, but he has used two names specific to Arjun, which are specific to this theme of trying to prod Arjun to realize who he is. In other words, the theme that Krishna is bringing out in these verses is building Arjun's self-confidence. Krishna is trying to rebuild Arjun's self-confidence. And how Krishna is building his self-confidence is by reminding him of his glorious lineage. In text 2 and 3, he used Aryan, he used Kshatriya to remind him, this is who you are. And these people who are Aryans, who are Kshatriyas, they don't waver in their duty. In this verse, Krishna is continuing with that same tactic by referring to Arjuna as Parth. By calling him Parth, he's saying, you are son of Pratha. Pratha is Arjun's mother's name, and she's Krishna's father's sister. So they are cousins. So Krishna is reminding him, Arjun, you are my cousin. You are the son of my aunt Pratha. I am here with you. I am acting as your charioteer. I am serving you here. And still you're letting us all down? Think about this situation. If Krishna was standing right beside us and we were supposed to do a task and Krishna saying, okay, I'll help you. Now you do like this. Now you do like this. If Krishna were to tell us how to perform a certain task, and if we ignored him, would we consider ourselves to be devotees?
No.
And that's
No.
exactly what Krishna is saying to Arjun. He's saying, Arjun, you are son of my aunt. You are my cousin. I am God. And you are not listening to what I'm supposed to. And I am here as your charioteer to help you in your task. Instead, you're declining to fight. So this is aimed at making Arjun feel guilty that he is not performing his duty properly. Then Krishna goes on to say, Netatvai upapadyate, that this is not befitting you. Kshudram, this is pettiness of the heart. Hriday dorbalyam, weakness of the heart. Weakness of the heart. Hriday dorbalyam is actually emphasized very much by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. She talks about the stumbling blocks in devotional service, and he lists Hriday dorbalyam as one of the major stumbling blocks, saying that the weakness of the heart is what causes you to not perform devotional service properly. And what he means by that is weakness of the heart means material attachment. And that is exactly what Arjun is displaying here. There's material attachment. It's not as if Arjun didn't have the weapons to fight. Arjun was given divine weapons. Krishna sent him to Shivji, to Durga Devi. So many, he had all divine weapons. From a weapon standpoint, there was no shortfall. From a capability standpoint, Arjun is Mahabahu, no shortfall. The only thing that was missing right now was the desire to fight. And so Krishna is reminding him, he's saying, Hriday dorbalyam, weakness of the heart, weakness of the mind. This is what is coming in your way. And then he goes on to say, Tyaktava utishta. Tyaktava, give up this weakness. Uthishta, get up, get up, get up. And then he calls him another name, Parantapa, O chastiser of the enemy. Parantapa meaning chastiser of the enemy. So he's saying you are a Kshatriya. Kshatriya is made up of two parts. The word Kshatriya is made up of two parts, Kshata and Trayate. Kshata means harm, Trayate means frees one from harm, protects one from harm. So a Kshatriya is one who protects others from harm. That is Kshatriya. And so Krishna is telling Arjun, you are a Kshatriya, you should protect others from harm. And you are Parantapa. How do you protect others from harm? By chastising the enemies, by chastising the miscreants. You see, in the Vedic system, in society, the Kshatriyas are the ones who give out punishment. In the Varnashram system is very scientific. Brahmins, we know they are the head of the society. They are the brains of the society. They provide spiritual guidance in accordance with the scriptures. Kshatriyas are the administrators. They are trained to fight. They're even trained to kill. That's why Kshatriyas are allowed to go out and practice hunting, so that they can practice the art of killing if necessary. And who do they kill? They kill those who violate the principles of dharma. So there is a list of who should be killed, like a person who sets fire to the house, a plunderer, etc., etc. There's the list there. So who will go and kill them? It's the Kshatriya. Only the Kshatriya is supposed to do that, not the Brahman, not the Vaishya, and not the Shudra. Only the Kshatriya. So Krishna is saying, Arjun, you are Kshatriya, you are chastiser of the enemy, you are empowered and authorized to kill aggressors, to kill enemies. And here you have these aggressors, the Kauravas. You are refusing to fight. This is not right. So these are the arguments that Krishna is giving. And he's saying, you are trying to, so Prabhupada says in the purport that Arjun was using the platform of magnanimity. Oh, I am being very soft-hearted, I'm being magnanimous. And Krishna is saying, no, no, no. You're not being soft-hearted, you're being weak-hearted. There's a big difference between being soft-hearted and being weak-hearted. And Arjun will counter that in text 4 by saying, no, I am not being weak-hearted. I am being soft-hearted because this is my grandfather and this is my Gurudev. How can I even have a verbal argument with them, let alone having a fight with them, and not to even think of, I can't even fight. How can I think of even killing them? So Arjun will provide that counter argument, or he provides that counter argument in text 4. Which when we go to text 5, we'll see how Krishna starts defeating all of those arguments. But this is, so Krishna is giving Arjun the basis for self-confidence. So the connection between this and our day-to-day lives is that how many of us feel that there are situations where we lose self-confidence, where we say, oh my God, this is a very difficult task. How will I do this? How will I face the situation? How will I stand up to this? Have you ever felt like that?
Well, in this COVID-19, sometimes you are losing so many people. Sometimes you are worried about your life.
Of course.
You don't want to drive and go to any, public places. And sometimes, you don't trust anybody. You don't trust yourself. Something driving, doing. You can lose some of your strength too.
True. And this material world is such a place where it is full of situations that deprive us of our self-confidence. But self-confidence, one of the techniques, there are certain techniques for building self-confidence, but in a devotional environment and in a devotional sense, the first principle of developing self-confidence is actually, there's a very interesting acronym that has been used to develop self-confidence in devotional life. Of course, in devotional life means in the life of a devotee, regardless of whether you're working on a devotional project or an office project or whatever it is. The point is, a devotee derives self-confidence in all situations from an acronym called SELF, SELF. And we'll get into that discussion at another time. But I'm just taking bits and pieces of that and relating it to Bhagavad Gita because it all comes from there. And the S part is coming from this chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So the S stands for spirituality. S stands for spirituality. And what do we mean by spirituality? That a devotee engages in spiritual practices because he realizes who is God? Krishna. The devotee realizes God is Krishna. Who am I? I am a servant of Krishna. So what is my relationship with Krishna? That of master and servant. And if that is the relationship, then what should my karma be? My karma should be devotional service. Do that which is pleasing to Krishna. So that is, in a nutshell, the meaning of spirituality for a devotee. How does a devotee derive self-confidence from this, from understanding this relationship? He derives or she derives self-confidence from this relationship by reminding himself or herself of our connection with the greatest authority, Krishna. Like we discussed last time, and we are going to discuss more today. What is our relationship with Krishna? We are his servants. Through whom are we establishing that relationship? We are establishing that relationship through, we are part of Brahma Madhav Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. So through our acharyas, we are establishing this relationship with Krishna. We on our own do not have the capability, the capacity, the knowledge, the devotional strength, the spiritual strength to approach Krishna directly. That is why Krishna is so kind that he appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, gave us the process of devotional service, gave us the acharyas, the whole lineage. And Prabhupada and his disciples, who are our gurus, they are also merciful that they have given us shelter at their lotus feet. This is our connection with Krishna. Yasya prasada bhavat prasada, yasya prasada nagati kutopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, we can get Krishna. Without the mercy of the spiritual master, you cannot get Krishna. We sing this every day in the morning. So this is the meaning of spirituality for us. Where are we from? We are from, originally we've come from the spiritual world. We got conditioned and therefore we are in this material world. But where are we from? We are from the spiritual world. And what is our connection with Krishna? Our connection with Krishna is through our acharyas, through our sampradaya. We are so impressed with the qualities of our acharyas. Many of us are familiar, I'm sure everybody's familiar with Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's daily routine. Is everybody familiar with that? Just nod your heads, I can see you on the screens. Imagine. Now, they have spiritual, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Prabhupada, others, they have spiritual bodies. Our bodies cannot keep up with their routines. But these are the people who have given us shelter. So if we remind ourselves that these are the people who are protecting us, who are guiding us, who have connected us to Krishna, who are there to compensate for our deficiencies, as long as we put in our effort, how much self-confidence will that give you? Does that give us any self-confidence?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the first principles of developing self-confidence is understand spirituality, meaning understand who you are, who do you belong to. We eventually belong to Krishna, but in a more in a hierarchical way, we belong to our acharyas, we belong to our guru, we belong to Prabhupada. That's who we belong to. So if we belong to, let's say, for example, if we belong to Prabhupada, if we belong to Prabhupada, what does that mean for us? Should we do things that will please Prabhupada, or should we do things that will make him disappointed?
Follow his principles.
Absolutely. And so why is this inspiring for us? It's very simple. I'll give you a real life example. And one devotee was telling me about this. We all know we are so fortunate. So Mukteswara Prabhu, you had on the first day introduced me to a Prabhupada disciple also, part of this group. And so we are very fortunate. We are Prabhupada disciples, or we have Prabhupada grand disciples like all of us, you know. So we know that we have some very, very, very wonderful devotees who are disciples of Prabhupada, who are helping us in our spiritual life. And one wonderful devotee that I had come across, disciple of His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj. And so the story that I was being told, this devotee said that he had zero confidence when it came to speaking in public. He had zero confidence when it came to giving a class on Shastra. And he was very dejected. He said, I'm told I should study Shastra, I should give class, but I can't do it. I'm not capable. I find it so difficult to open the book and read, let alone absorbing this material, and let alone then going and speaking this material. So the person who he was talking to was a counselor. And he said, Are, why are you feeling so dejected? Think about whose disciple are you? He says, oh, I'm disciple of His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj. He says, Radha Govinda Maharaj is such a fantastic preacher for the last 50 years. He has been giving Bhagavatam class, Bhagavatam Saptah. And you are his disciple and you say you can't open the Shastra and you cannot read. How do you call yourself his disciple? And that kind of shook him up. He was like, yeah, of course. I am his disciple. I should be able to do this. And he took it upon himself for 2 years. He did a lot of study. And today he's a wonderful preacher. So, real life example of somebody taking inspiration from his connection. Each one of us, think about the fantastic qualities of our gurus. And that will inspire each one of us. Think about, and the beauty of of Prabhupada's family is that we get inspiration from each other and from other gurus. Each one of us, this was a disciple of His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj who got inspiration from his guru, but each one of us can get inspiration from Radha Govinda Maharaj. It's not that you have to be a disciple to get inspiration from him. Book distribution, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, amazing. Inspires people all over to distribute books. So inspiring. And he doesn't hoard that inspiration just for himself or just for his disciples. This is the beauty. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. He came with love of God and distributed it freely to everybody. So if Vaisheshika Prabhu does seminars to teach people, this is how you go out and distribute books. He's distributing freely the capacity to go out and distribute books. He's saying, this is how I do it. This is the best I know. Now you go and do it. Think about it. Isn't that merciful? Every time you hear one of our gurus giving class, any person you think of, see the nectar coming out of that class. Are they saying that this is only for so and so and this is not for you? They are freely distributing it in the mode of Mahaprabhu, freely distributing love of God. This is who we are connected to. I heard in one class, somebody was mentioning, there was a class I heard. He said His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj once told this person that before I give class, I prepare for 6 hours. 6 hours before giving a class. He said, Maharaj, do you have a need to prepare for so many hours before giving class? He said, of course. Because when I go out and give class, so many people are sitting there expecting to hear something useful from me. I cannot let them down. And if I don't put in the effort, how will I do justice to the glorification of the Supreme Lord? So effort. When you hear that even such an exalted guru puts in this kind of effort, then should we not be putting in effort? How inspiring that is for us. That before sharing any information with other devotees, the person who's preparing for class is putting in so much effort in order to please the Lord and in order to please those who are listening. So this is who we are connected to. And if we keep reminding ourselves about these facts, about who we are connected to, it will give us a lot of inspiration. And this is what Krishna is doing with Arjun. Krishna is telling Arjun, Parth, son of Pratha, what are you doing putting down your bow and arrow? Parantapa, what are you doing? Kshatriya, Aryan. So Krishna is building his self-confidence. He's reminding him that your purpose of life is to serve me. And now don't let misunderstandings of what is duty and what is not duty come in the way. So of course, now this will be followed with a very healthy discussion between Krishna and Arjun of what is duty and what is not duty. Arjun will say that, oh, Krishna, I don't want to disappoint you, but I am confused that what is pleasing to you and what is not pleasing to you. Isn't that our confusion also in life? Don't we face situations where we don't know, is this way pleasing to Krishna or is that way pleasing to Krishna? You see? So what we are observing here on the battlefield is very applicable to our day-to-day life. So the key thing again that I wanted to stress in this verse, in the discussion, is basically that in order to make spiritual progress, so the S of self-confidence, the S of self-confidence is spirituality, meaning understanding who do you belong to. So we belong to this sampradaya. We discussed how great our gurus are, how wonderful Prabhupada is. Prabhupada came, I mean, just think about it. At the age of 67, without health insurance, without ever having lived in a cold country, Prabhupada comes over to the US with no money in his pocket. I mean, we are all working people. You have some, you have health insurance from your employer and this and that. You need certain infrastructure in order to survive. Prabhupada came completely empty-handed to America, totally dependent on the Supreme Lord. And what he has done, we all know, established temples across the world, established this whole movement, attracted people in the Western countries to this to the Vedic way of life. Is this not a miracle? This is miraculous. I think miracle means just doing some jadoo and all of a sudden a flower will appear in my hand. That is magic. Well, that is small magic. But what Prabhupada has done is miraculous. And the reason he has done this is not because he is a magician or a mystic yogi. He's a pure devotee of the Lord, and he's given us evidence that devotional service to the Lord works. Devotional service to the Lord produces results. And the results of Prabhupada's devotional service, we are all benefiting from today. So this is our connection, this is our lineage, and therefore, the implication is that in our day-to-day sadhana, if we put in the effort, if we keep putting in effort and having a focus on, I must improve, I must improve, I must improve, I must improve my quality of devotional service, my quality of sadhana, that is pleasing to Krishna. And to the extent that on a day-to-day basis, we may come across situations where we don't know what is the right thing to do, we can always get advice. But within ourselves, if we have this desire to always improve in our devotional service, to always make progress in our devotional service, because we are connected, just remind us, Arjun is being referred to as Parth, and so on and so forth. We have to remind ourselves, like I can remind myself, my name is Ajita Krishna Das, given to me by my guru. Who's my guru? What is his relationship with Prabhupada? Oh, okay, I must do my devotional service nicely. So this way, we inspire ourselves and those around us in order to move further in devotional life. So I think I'll stop here and we can open up for questions, comments, and others. Please share your realizations and please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. This is Vrishabhanu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Humble obeisances, all glory Srila Prabhupada.
No
Prabhu,
problem.
you nicely explained, but when I read the another sloga, 3.5, I think nahi kachit kshanam abhi jadudishtam yagatmakrit karyate haivashah karma sarva prakti jai gunahai. It means everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So, when you say Hridaya Dorbalyam, weakness of the heart, because of this kind of stuff, it happens, right?
Right.
But it means it is not in our control. The weakness of heart, it is not in our control. Is that right?
Well, I won't go so far as to say it is not in our control. It is definitely a pressure that is acting upon us, and that's what verse 3.5 is saying, that everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. But the beauty of devotional service, the beauty of chanting, for example, eating prasad and so on and so forth, is that it helps you rise above the modes of nature. It helps you control the modes of nature. We all have certain amount of ignorance, certain amount of passion, certain amount of goodness in us. But these activities of hearing and chanting, that minimizes, and finally eradicates the ignorance, eradicates the passion, and brings us into goodness, increases the goodness till finally our goal is to be in Shuddha Sattva, in pure goodness. So the verse that you read, Prabhuji, that is describing the condition that we are in. But we have also been given the solution to counteract this condition. So we are acting under the modes of nature due to our past karma, due to our previous lives. We have been given a certain type of body and a certain type of combination of the modes of nature. But by the mercy of Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada, etc., our acharyas, we have also now been given the antidote to it, which is the process of devotional service. So by following devotional service, we can minimize the influence of ignorance and passion and keep increasing our percentage of goodness.
Thank you, Prabhu.
You're welcome, Prabhu. Thanks for the question.
So, Prabhu, I have a question, basic question maybe. So, Arjuna was with Krishna, okay, so right from young age. So, he knew Krishna, and maybe their rasa is Sakyaras, friendship relation. But at some point of time, he might even had a knowledge that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Correct.
Right.
So knowing this, and definitely Krishna would have shared so much knowledge in between, not just Bhagavad Gita, but before that, because he's always with him, so he would have definitely shared so much knowledge.
Right.
And Arjuna also parallelly, he learned so much Shastras because he's a Maharathi, he learned so much Shastras. So knowing all these things, as soon as he saw those own people, then he starts lamenting. Okay, and then he says, I'm going to surrender unto you. Right? Please
Right.
just say I'm Shadiman Tvam Prapanna.
Right.
So in spite of knowing so much knowledge, is that the bodily consciousness took over that knowledge of vast knowledge what he had, and the relation between him and Krishna, everything was overridden by that compassion. Is that so weak?
Very nice question, Prabhu. So it is basically, it is not as if Arjun was weak, that the sight of the body relationships kind of bewildered him. This was the Yoga Maya arrangement of Krishna, that he wanted Arjun to act like an ordinary man and ask all of these questions, forgetting his entire knowledge base. So Krishna kind of didn't wipe out his database. He basically just he put it in the background, just so that Arjun could ask these questions as if he were a common conditioned soul like you and I. And for our benefit, then Krishna would speak the Bhagavad Gita. But you're right. I mean, Arjun's an eternal associate of Krishna. There's no question of Arjun being bewildered. And you're absolutely right. Arjun knew that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, all the Pandavas knew. That's why, in fact, when Krishna went to Duryodhan and Yudhishthir, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, to ask them whether you want me or you want my army, Duryodhan thought he was very clever and he said, who wants you? You give me your army, because he knew the strength of Krishna's army. Pandavas were like, Krishna, we just need you. You are on our side. There's no question of us being in difficulty. So they knew that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's just that on the battlefield for this particular period of 30 to 45 minutes, when Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Krishna to Arjuna, his knowledge was covered just so that he would ask these questions.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, you're welcome, Prabhu. Thanks for the question.
Anyone else has any question?
Prabhu, I have a question, Vasla.
Yes, ma'am.
We you know what, I think our quality, even though we are reading all this, sometimes I think maybe the Maya or something is taking over. Sometimes even though we try hard, we think we'll be doing something okay, and then all of a sudden everything is going down. Why is that? I mean, is it our ego that is acting up on us? Because sometimes I'll be thinking, oh, I am doing very nicely, I am following everything, chanting my rounds, and all of a sudden so many things come up, and then you are falling behind. And then you are in a depressed state. Oh my God, I was thinking that I was doing a better job, and then the mode of ignorance or laziness comes upon you, and then you are stalling, you are going behind in your sadhana. So how to overcome this?
Again, Mataji, in the context of what we read today, the best way to overcome this is to remind ourselves of who we are connected to. And can we let them down? The same argument that Krishna is using, he's calling Arjun Parth and Parantapa. So we have to remind ourselves, oh, I am disciple of so-and-so, or if I'm not initiated, I am aspiring for initiation, or I am interested in making spiritual progress. So the S of self-confidence in spiritual life is basically spiritual connection.
Mm.
You keep reminding yourself that this is the way I can get connected to Krishna, by chanting, by following the principles of devotional service. That will inspire us. It's natural that some days are better than others. Some days your chanting is more attentive. Some days there are more distractions, so it's less attentive. But that's the constant battle that we are in this material world, in this embodied, we are embodied souls in this body, like the verse Vishnu Prabhu read out. It means that we are constantly, our body, mind, body meaning gross body and subtle body. Subtle body is mind, intelligence, and false ego. And the mind, particularly, is always under the influence of the modes. So is the gross body, but the mind is influenced by them. So that's why some days are better than others, and we feed, but intelligence is higher than the mind. So we purify our intelligence through the chanting process. And when you purify our intelligence, intelligence becomes strong, becomes sharp. It helps you stay alert, and it can control the mind.
So we have to stay focused. We should have some conviction, and even though certain days are not going your way, I think we shouldn't really fall victim to that. Like I'm going down, we shouldn't be really feeling down, and then we should focus our energy on getting back, and I can do better. So you go ahead with that.
Yes, yes. And see, one of the other things of spirituality is understanding that the real you is the self, and the mind is not you. You are not the mind.
Yeah.
You are the self. The mind is part of your body.
Okay.
And the mind is what is doing all this thought process. Oh, I don't feel like doing this, or I don't feel. It's not that you don't feel like, your mind doesn't feel like doing this, or your mind doesn't feel like doing that. So if you just remind yourself that and say, no, but I, as a spirit soul, I want to chant, and I want to chant nicely, then your mind will follow you. So the idea is to kind of keep reminding ourselves, we are devotees, we are spiritual beings, we are spirit soul, and our nourishment is devotional service.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have
Hare-
a question, Prabhuji. So, how will we know as a devotee that we are building up self-confidence rather than overconfidence?
Very nice. You see, the analogy that they use is that, let's say you're making a sabji. In the sabji, if there's no salt, then the sabji is tasteless. If there's excess salt, still it is tasteless. So the right amount of salt is necessary. Same way, confidence is that kind. Confidence is like salt. It's a necessary ingredient. For you to pursue devotional service, you have to have confidence. Underconfidence will deflate you. Overconfidence will make you arrogant. So the right amount of confidence is what we need. So what is that right amount of confidence? That right amount is something just like what is the right amount of salt? You can only tell by tasting, right? You can only tell by tasting the preparation. Yes, I've used the right amount of salt. Same way, in spiritual practices, when your confidence inspires you, it inspires you, but it doesn't allow you to become arrogant and heady, then you know you have the right amount of confidence. That's why you see Mahaprabhu says, "Tanadapi sunitina tarupi sajna." Humility. Humility is a necessary counterbalance. It's a counterweight against overconfidence. But humility doesn't mean, oh, I'm useless, I cannot do anything. That is underconfidence. Humility means I will put in my best effort, but I am not the controller of the results. The results are controlled by Krishna. So that is one aspect of humility. So the right amount of confidence is you should feel inspired, but not arrogant. Does that help, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Right.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Other thoughts, questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam Sadhu Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji,
Oh, there you are, Prabhu. I was wondering where was the sound voice coming from?
yeah, as you told, like Krishna is now reminding Arjuna about, you because you being you're a Kshatriya Aryan, so you have to know about yourself, and and then you have to act accordingly. So how do we know that by ourselves, like like we belongs to Kshatriya, like how we need to do our duty in connection to Krishna, like that is one thing is sure. We have to do everything, whatever we do, we have to do keeping in Krishna in the center. So, but in the materially, since we are in a in the material this one, so how do we know that we are belongs to this and we have to do this? This is our duty. How do we know?
Sure, Prabhu. So, very practical, very good question. Which applies to day-to-day life. The idea is that there are certain, like Bhagavad Gita will say, there are certain prescribed duties that you must do. So from our perspective, the prescribed duties are we chant, we eat prasad, we read, we worship the deities. Those are the prescribed. Those are, everybody should do that. Right? Those are given. Those are the foundations. Those are the fundamentals. And when we perform those activities, that they sharpen our intelligence to be able to determine on a day-to-day basis what is the right course of action for me in a given situation. So I'm guessing, but correct me if I'm wrong, probably are you referring to, well, let's say there's a work situation. How do I know what's the right thing to do, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So, you have to work. You have to work to maintain your body and to pay your bills, maintain your family and all that. So Krishna doesn't say, and Krishna says the same thing to Arjun. Arjun, you're a Kshatriya, you have to fight. Meaning, if you're a professional like we all are, we have to go to our jobs and do our work and earn our money. But there are certain situations that might arise there which make you wonder, okay, should I do like this or should I do like that? And guaranteed, when you perform, like either you can, if you have confidence in someone, that you can discuss a situation with them, somebody who's in a position to provide you guidance on a devotional level, certainly do that. That is recommended in the Shastra. Seek guidance. Reveal your heart, seek guidance with the senior, mature devotee. That's one way. And second thing, you may not always have access to someone, but if you're performing your devotional given activities, Krishna definitely helps you from within too. The guidance comes. But the formula given by Prabhupada is Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, three sources. Approach the Guru, approach the Sadhu, Sadhu meaning devotee, who you can reveal your mind to and discuss these things with. And third is Shastra. So many times you read Bhagavad Gita and you think about your situation, you say, oh my God, that applies to me. That happens. And so it's real. When they say that the Shastra guides you, it's real. So many times you're thinking of something during the course of the day, and these days we live in the age of WhatsApp, and and Prabhupada's, like, devotees keep sharing Prabhupada quote of the day, and so many times I found myself saying, oh my God, this is exactly what I need today. So it's real. Prabhupada is there, he talks to us, and devotees are there, and Krishna talks to us through devotees, or from the heart to his Paramatma. So keep devotee association, keep the Sangha going, keep engaging in your practices. You'll never be alone.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Prabhuji, I have a question pertaining to this discussion.
Yes, Mataji.
We read, as you told, we read a lot of literature, we read a lot of examples, we get quotations from a lot of places. But the thing is, when practically we are in that situation, when we are away from the situation, maybe we will remember. But when we are practically in that particular situation, it's very difficult to apply, Prabhuji. So is there any suggestion like how we should go about?
The difficulty in applying the lesson to yourself is because of our attachment. So you scrutinize yourself at that time, because you are your best judge. You know what your situation is, you know what you dislike about it, and where you're having a hard time following the instruction, right? You know the situation best. So you have to be critical of yourself, or your husband, I mean, both of you, you know exactly what the circumstances are. And so introspection, that's where introspection as a devotee is very important. When you introspect, you try to identify your own fault, your own weakness. You're your best judge. And then you can identify what particular weakness it is that is preventing you from applying that knowledge to yourself right now, and then pray to Krishna. Very important. Pray to Krishna. Say, Krishna, you please give me the strength by which to follow this principle. I am having a difficult time. You please give me the strength. Krishna reciprocates. I hope that helps, Mataji.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Other thoughts or comments, questions?
I think no one seems to have any question. Yeah. I think that's all, Prabhu. No one has any question.
Those were very nice questions, and hopefully they got something out of the answers also.
Yeah, sure. The main thing is, when it comes to the real-time scenarios, we are tested, and
Yes.
Krishna sees how much we implement it.
Right.
Real test comes, So knowing the knowledge is one part, and implementation is other. And most of the time, implementation is where we fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the most difficult part. Anyways, with the association, as you said, the association of devotees give us the strength and confidence to implement that.
Right.
Be very important.
That's the confidence part is what Krishna is stressing on over here. Arjun, have the confidence, derive the confidence by thinking of who you are and overcome your weakness,
Prabhu, I have a little thing that came up. This is Vatsala.
Yes, Mataji.
We are not supposed to ask Krishna for anything. Doesn't he? He is sitting in our heart as Paramatma, and he knows our struggle every day, what we are going through. A lot of things, weather changing or other circumstantial, financial changes, anything can happen. But we are still struggling to do what we promised Srila Prabhupada to do. Or we want to follow the scripture and what Srila Prabhupada taught us to do. So, do we still need to pray to him that I am going through this difficulty? Dear Lord Krishna, would you solve this problem? Are we supposed to beg for all these things? And doesn't he know, as a Paramatma, he knows what our intentions are? And doesn't he give some relief to us?
Yes, as Paramatma, he knows what are our struggles, what is our situation, but is your question that is it okay for us to pray to him and ask him to help us, to guide us?
Yes.
That's okay, Mataji, because you see, every day we say prayers, right? Every day we do the morning program, we are singing Samsara Dava Nandita Loka. Every day we are singing.
Mm.
We can't say that, well, Krishna knows that I believe in it, so should I be singing the prayers? What happens is that when you sing those prayers, it reminds you. It does two things. One, it structures your life. So you spend your time in a wholesome activity. And two, every time you sing it, you're reminded, oh, what am I singing? Samsara Dava Nalnida Loka. Oh, the spiritual master is showering mercy from the ocean of benediction and extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. So that's the meaning of the first verse. So when you sing it, you remind yourself, yeah, Krishna, my spiritual master is helping us come out of this material existence. So that's why it's useful. Similarly, when you face a challenge and it reaches a point where you say that, my God, I don't know exactly what to do, it's okay to stand in front of Krishna and pray to him to give you the strength. Because that is surrender. Krishna says, Sarvadharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. He says, take shelter of me, come into my shelter. So if you stand in front of him and say, my Lord, I surrender to you, you can say that as many number of times as you want. Krishna will not say that, you said it once, you don't have to say it again. If you are surrendering to him, each time you feel, you see what happens is sometimes you feel more in your heart. Oh, Krishna, I totally surrender to you. Say it to him. You're communicating with him. There's nothing wrong with that. Praying to Krishna, trying to reveal your heart to him. You see, Rupa Goswami in Updesh Amrit, Nectar of Instruction, they have said, reveal your heart to a senior devotee, counselor, somebody who can give you guidance. So why not? So it is recommended to reveal your heart. So if you reveal your heart to Krishna, that's actually you're consciously making an effort. You're saying, Krishna, I surrender to you. I'm helpless. I need your help. It's okay. That's my view. I don't know. Muktasanga Prabhu or others, anybody else, do you have thought?
Yes, Prabhu. Actually, on the same line, so it is all based on the reciprocation. Now, even though Krishna knows everything, unless until we reciprocate and we express, because Krishna sees our desire and nothing else. Otherwise, Krishna can give everything. Even in battlefield, Krishna says, I've already killed all these people. Just these people I've already killed. Then what is the use of Arjuna fighting? So Krishna has already killed, right? But Krishna wanted Arjuna as an instrument to fight and then please Krishna. So similarly, the reciprocation matters. And the desires, as much as we express to Krishna, even though he knows everything. So that reciprocation, the different exchanges, it could be different types of relation, like friendship relation, Vatsalya relation, or Shanta relation. So all those relationships matter, and for these relationships, there should be a reciprocation between two parties.
Thank you, Prabhu. That's very nice.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Very good question.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I think we are good. Yeah, thank you again, Prabhu. Such a wonderful sharing.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Very wonderful.
Prabhuji, Mataji, thank you all so much. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Same.
Vanchakal Kripasindhubhyo Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय।
Ki jai.
समवेत भक्त।
Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Srila
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
जय।
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you.
Jai.
Yeah.
Very good.